My name is Nancy Barker, and I interned at Citizens Tri-County Bank in Dunlap, Tennessee this summer. The main office is located in Dunlap, and there are also two other branches, one on the north side of town and one on the south side of town. I worked at the South End branch the last 2 summers as a teller, so my experience as a teller was very different than my bookkeeping experience, and I will talk about that a little later on. Citizens Tri-County Bank was founded in 1972 and started out in a trailer, and then gradually grew to 22 branches in 8 different surrounding counties. The main office is the only bank in Dunlap that offers international wire transactions. This is where customers can wire money from their account in the U.S. to a different country. The home office is also the one that sends out all of the branch's activity notices and checking and savings statements. The home office is the one that deals with all of the 22 surrounding branches' statements and notices because the main office is the only one that has a statements room. This is where they send us all of their statements and savings and checkings, all of that information to a central program that we all use, and then we get that information from that program, print off the statements and notices, and then put them in their specific envelopes and mail them off to the customers. Why did I choose CTCB for my internship? I had worked as a teller for them the past 2 summers, as I previously mentioned, so I had already established a relationship with them. Also, my great uncle was the president at the time, and my cousin also held a high position in the bank. My uncle was actually one of the founders of the bank in 1972. It always helps to have family ties. I also chose to intern with CTCB because I had the opportunity to work with customers daily. I like working with people, so this was good for me. Another reason why I chose CTCB was that I wanted to learn more about banking to see if I wanted to pursue a career in banking when I graduate. This was a way for me to explore future career options. My responsibilities this summer, I mainly worked in the bookkeeping department while I was there. My responsibilities included scanning reports, answering customer phone calls, updating overdrawn accounts, writing wire transfer tickets, and I also worked in the statement room, and I printed off statements and notices, took them and the regular mail to the post office, and restocked the supplies. My weekly routine consisted of observing during the first week, and this included watching some of my coworkers perform specific jobs that I would later do on my own. My supervisor wanted me to watch first while the IT department got all of my logins and passwords set up. This is why I observed during the first week, so that I could watch and learn, but also so that they could have time to get my passwords set up. Then I practiced these different jobs and performed them on my own. I also rotated from the bookkeeping department to the accounts payable department, sometimes on a weekly basis, but it was mainly just when the accounts payable department needed me to do something for them. The accounts payable department is a section of the bank that, as far as I know, deals with real estate and reports. When I worked with them, I helped the real estate agent or the appraiser. I helped her locate specific documents about some of the houses that the bank owns, and I located those documents and printed them off so that she could put them with her paperwork so that it would be all together when she went out to work on a specific house. Also, in the accounts payable department, I scanned a lot of reports for them. This process looked like Crystal, I think she's the head of the accounts payable department. She would hand me stacks of reports, probably 4 or 5 years worth, and I would put them through the scanning machine and send them digitally through her email account, and then she would save them and file them away. During weeks when I would rotate from department to another department, I would work in the bookkeeping department in the morning and then in accounts payable in the afternoon. One of my defining moments this summer at CTCB was when my coworker, Miss Jewel, and the other person who knew how to work the statement room was off for the day, and I had to work in the statement room by myself. I was trained how to do the job, so I knew what I was doing, but it was so different having the option to ask questions versus not being able to ask, because the person who knew how to do the job was off work. I made notes and copies of certain notices to use as examples, so I did all right on my own, but it was still a little nerve-wracking to be the one responsible for that job that day. Miss Jewel trained me previously. She didn't just leave me hanging. She showed me how to do the job, and she told me that if I had questions, I could save them for Monday and just ask her about it. So it wasn't I wasn't under a lot of pressure doing this job on my own, but it was nice to be able to do this, because even though it was a little scary, it was also empowering in a way, because I was the one doing the job instead of constantly taking instructions from someone. Miss Jewel is a very sweet lady, but she was constantly reminding me how to do a job, even if I had previously known how to do that job already. She would give me this job and say, okay, this type of notice goes in this specific envelope, or these tear apart notices, we don't mail them out, we just keep them at the bank. Even if I knew that, I guess she would forget that I knew that and just constantly remind me. But this experience of having to do this specific job on my own helped boost my confidence, because I knew that I could get the job done on my own. There was also a time when I took an agitated customer's phone call, and the customer would not even let me speak. She was so determined to tell me that it was the bank's fault that this problem happened, and would not hear anything I had to tell her. Finally, after a few minutes of listening to her talk, my supervisor took over the call and talked to the customer to resolve the issue. This customer, every time I would say something, she would come back with an argument saying, well, no, this is what it is, and she would just re-explain the situation. Even if I said, hey, this is not really an issue or an area that I know a lot about, let me let you talk to someone who knows more about it than I do. She would keep going back to, well, let me just tell you, and then I would sit there and listen to her. And finally, my supervisor saw what I was dealing with, and she said, do you want me to take the call? And I nodded my head, and so she took it and resolved the issue. But I think this was a defining moment for me, because I knew that I was not experienced enough at the time to explain to the customer how the bank was not at fault. Even if I thought I could handle it, I wasn't actually ready to handle that kind of situation yet. Banking seems to be mainly financial work, and even though I was not working in the finance department, my internship at the bank directly related to a lot of what I have been learning in my classes at Bryan. I used basic software like Microsoft Excel and Word to make charts and reports. I also was able to relate a lot of the bank policies and procedures to what I have learned in business law. We dealt a little with customer contracts, liability, and collateral for things like mortgages and loans. When I worked with the loan department, I learned that some specific loans require different collateral than other loans. Mortgages probably require a lot more collateral than customer loans that are smaller, like buying a car or buying a four-wheeler. Service encounters were also something I was able to relate to. This includes teller-to-teller customer interactions and bookkeeping representative to customer interactions. I was also able to see how flowcharts relate to banking. Something as simple as getting a check cashed has a process filled with a beginning, customer wait time, decisions to be made, and the ending product or service in this case. I was also able to see what the bank's focus on customer retention looked like. CTCB is focused more on keeping current customers than bringing in new ones, but they do an excellent job with both. Supply and demand works a little differently at a bank than at somewhere like a department store, and I got to see how the process of ordering and reordering supplies based on busyness worked. For example, we would reorder different amounts of envelopes and different kinds of papers on days when we weren't as busy. We would reorder supplies weekly, so we would look at the calendar and we would see which weeks we would be busiest and we would order accordingly, so we wouldn't have a lot of extra supplies in our supply room. I really enjoyed most of what I learned and did this summer. Some specific things that I liked about CTCB were the coworkers that I had. They were very nice and helpful, and they tried to keep good attitudes, even when dealing with customers was difficult. I liked the welcoming atmosphere. The people at the front desks greet each customer, and everyone is helpful and very polite. I also liked when we would stay busy in the bookkeeping department because staying busy helped the day go by. The day seemed to crawl on days when business was slower. Some of my dislikes include days when business was slower. This job could get pretty boring when I did not have much to do. Also, dealing with difficult customers was not something that I enjoyed doing. Lastly, I found it difficult to keep a routine when I was unsure of what I would be doing every day. Since I didn't have a specific job, I was constantly being moved from department to another department. I was being moved around a lot, and I don't think that they wanted to put me in a permanent position because they knew I would only be there for the summer. So they didn't want to spend a lot of time training me to do this specific job when they knew that I would only be there for the summer. So instead of doing that, they just trained me in a few jobs and then rotated me out. This was interesting and fun in a way, but it was also frustrating because I was not able to get a routine in. I would work one day and then I wouldn't know what I would be doing the next day. In saying all of this, I would probably consider a future job with CTCB, especially if I had a specific job to perform and if I was able to work with customers on a daily basis. I would also not want to work in the finance department just because finance is not really my thing, so I would probably not take the job if that were the only opening they had. Overall, I really enjoyed my time as a bank intern this summer. I enjoyed the learning of all of the different jobs, and I enjoyed especially the company of the people I worked with.